Let us close the eyes for a moment, remembering God and the Masters. Let us pray together. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May God protect us all. May we enjoy food together. May we meditate and pray together. May we shine in wisdom. May there be no conflict among us. May there be peace within and everywhere. Om. Amen. I bow to formless God who is omnipresent. I bow to all the saints and sages of all times and places. Humbly I bow to the lineage of Kriya Yoga masters, and I bow to living power of God within you all. Good evening and welcome. Today is the Thanksgiving Day, and I would like to say from the core of my heart that I am thankful to all of you, thankful to God, the masters, Gurudev, Guruji, all the teachers, acharyas, and all my friends, colleagues, even the Kriya ones, for unconditional love, respect. I have received, I have learnt a lot from all of you. I have been learning. In various ways, you all have helped me continuously. So I'm indebted to you. And on this day, I want to express my gratitude and thanks to all of you. We began our discussion last time about 6 spiritual treasures for a spiritual seeker from Tattva Bodha. So just to recap what we discussed in the last class, we began our discussion with 3 treasures: Daiva Sampatti, Sadhana Sampatti, and Vishaya Sampatti, which is also known as Asura Sampatti. Divine treasure, treasure of the subject, treasure of the object. Then we discussed Shamadhi Sadhana Sampatti Ka. What are the accomplishments of sadhana or spiritual practice, starting with Shama, Sham Adi, Sham, etc. So there are 6. In the next verse, we discussed Shama, Dama, Uparamaha, Titiksha, Shraddha, Samadhanam, Cha, Iti. So these 6 spiritual treasures are Shama, Dama, Uparama, Titiksha, Shraddha, and Samadhana. So now we are discussing Shama. Adi Shankar is explaining Shamaha Kaha, Mano Nigraha. What is Shama? Shama is control or mastery over the mind. We discussed about the 2 qualities of mind, Avalamban and Chitta Vikshepa. Mind is always occupied by some thoughts or ideas, and second is mind is always restless. Because of this restlessness, mind constantly creates some thought waves, and these mental thought processes or patterns are 5-fold, which are known as vratti. And these 5-fold modifications of mind, they give rise to experience of pain or pleasure. We discussed about Lahiri Mahashaya's teaching, that pleasure and pain, happiness or unhappiness, which is known as sukha or dukkha, when we go away from kha means akasha, kha means the space element, or God the absolute. When we go near God, we are in happiness, and when we go away from the God, then we are in sorrow. Now, further discussion about mind. As we were discussing last time, suppose whatever experiences we have in the world, it all depends on the interpretation of mind. For example, if we are in a marriage ceremony and some song is being played, listening to this song, we become very happy. When we are present in a funeral, the same song will not be pleasant to us. It is a common experience because the situation is changed, and due to this change in situation, the interpretation of mind or our reaction is also different. Another example we can take from our day-to-day life. Suppose there is loss of fortune. If it is the loss of our enemy, then we are happy, isn't it? Let's be honest, because it happens. So if it is the loss of our enemy, we are very happy and think, oh, this person must learn some lesson. But if it is the loss of our own friend, we are sorrowful, we are sad, and we start praying for that person. Now, the loss of fortune is one cause, but the reaction to the loss is of two types, according to the person involved. Here, what we need to understand, it is the mind who is creating friend or enemy, and we behave according to interpretation of our mind. So all the experiences are painful or pleasant because of interpretation of mind. And for this reason, mind is the basis of all our bondage, and modern psychotherapy clinics are giving so much emphasis on positive thinking. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is explaining when Arjuna in the battlefield asked about mind, that Lord, you are telling me to control the mind. It is very difficult. So Arjuna is telling, Chanchalam hi manah Krishna pramathi balavad dradham tasyaham nigraham manye vayoh iva sudushkaram. It is in the 6th chapter, verse number 34. The mind is very restless, turbulent, strong and obstinate. O Krishna, it appears to me that it is more difficult to control the mind than the wind. It is just like holding air in my fist, which is next to impossible. So here in this verse, Arjuna is telling, Chanchalam hi manah Krishna, mind is very restless, turbulent, strong and obstinate. Here, about the mind, 4 things are mentioned. First is Chanchalam. Chanchalam means restless. Second is Pramathi. Pramathi, it has come from Matha. Word Matha. Matha means to churn. Mind is churning. Balvat. Third is Balvat. Balvat means powerful. Mind is very powerful. And 4th quality is Dradham, means firmly grounded in its conviction. And if you read Katha Upanishad, there is a mantra in the 1st canto, 3rd chapter and 3rd mantra. This about mind, it is said, Manah pragraha mevacha. Mind is the bridle and the 10 sense organs are the horses. But mind is very powerful tool, and we have to be careful with mind. Mind has a natural tendency to flow down like water. If you observe water, water always flows down. And if you have to take water to a 7-story building, for example, you have to apply external force. For example, a submersible pump to take water from the ground floor to the 7th floor. Similarly, our mind constantly flows down towards the lower chakras, lower tendencies, and mostly it remains in 3 lower chakras: bottom center, second center, and navel center. Means money, relationship, and food. Most of our time is spent in these 3 activities. To elevate the mind, like water has to be taken up. Similarly, to elevate our mind, we have to practice the technique of pranayama. Just like water flows easily downward, so also mind goes down naturally. But it takes a machine to lift the water to a certain height. Therefore, to elevate the mind, we need a technique, and that is called pranayama. Mind is mana in Sanskrit. If we reverse this word mana, what will become? Ma-na. If we reverse it, it becomes nama. Nama means humble, to be humble. If you look at any gold ornament, gold is the essence. Because gold is malleable and soft, hence it is valued than the iron. What does it mean? The quality of humility is valued. So if we become humble, then naturally we can have control over the mind and our value is increased. Remember, all training and practices are for the mind. So this treasure Shama, controlling the mind, is speaking of our inner state. When the mind is peaceful, everything can be achieved. Mind is an inner instrument because God has given us 4 inner instruments: mind, memory, intellect, and ego. So mind is an inner instrument. Once the mind is accepted as the instrument, then we are to hold it with clarity and understanding. Sometimes people think mano nigraha means elimination of mind or no mind. Although mano nigraha means no mind, the real meaning in this context is to hold the mind and to make the mind useful as an instrument with knowledge. When the mind is useful, it will not be an obstacle in our daily and spiritual life. An instrument cannot obstruct. An instrument is to help us to accomplish our own activities. The mind is like a machine and we are the operator. When the mind becomes a dictator, we use it in the wrong way. Thus, we live in ignorance and darkness. To use the mind as a good instrument is to live in knowledge and light. By the right use of the mind, we can control it and have peace in our life. If we do not have control over our mind, restlessness and suffering will ensue. Shama is the means to achieve peace, because from Shama word Shanti has come. The word Shanti, Sham and Shama come from the same root word. To attain peace, there must be controlling the mind, control over the mind. Having control or reign over the mind is Shama. Although the mind is restless, We are to control it, regulate it, and use it in a positive manner. The mind in Vedantic texts or yogic scriptures consists of thinking, rationalizing, memorizing, and the ego. Hence, when Acharya Shankar mentions Shama, Mano Nigraha, he is referring to 4 parts of the mind: mind, intellect, memory, and ego. When using our mind and intellect, we must have control over both. Mind and intellect, we should have perfect control. If you look at the scientists have good minds and good intellects. But if they use them for destruction, it is not a spiritual mind or a spiritual intellect. The mind, intellect, memory, and ego can be used or abused. Both are the possibilities. Control over the mind is the first treasure a spiritual seeker must possess. Those who consider themselves students should think whether they have this qualification or not. What is the condition of your mind? Do you have control over it? Is your mind restless? Is your mind taking you from one state to another? Is your mind sometimes excited and other times depressed? Is your mind running here and there, not knowing what the real goal of life is and how to be in a balanced state? Every spiritual seeker should evaluate the nature of their mind through careful observation. I'll tell you a story here that how we must watch our mind. There was a monk who lived near a woman who had a very decadent lifestyle. She entertained many visitors throughout the night for the purpose of earning a living. The monk, who was aware of her profession, was concerned for the lady and was constantly thinking about what was going on in her life. On the other hand, although the woman earned her livelihood in an immoral manner, she was always praying to God and having positive thoughts. Then one day, as fate would have it, the lady and the monk both died. As she took her last breath, the woman was surrounded by beautiful angels who lovingly escorted her to heaven. However, the monk was shocked to see the messenger of death coming for him. He loudly informed them that they had come to the wrong house and quickly gave them the address of the lady. But the messengers assured him no mistake had been made. They said, although you are a monk, your mind was always dwelling on negative thoughts about the other person. But even though the lady you speak of lived in an improper way, she always had loving thoughts and kept her mind on God. The message of this story: do not be judgmental. Do not dwell on the evil you see in others. See only the good, not the bad. Do not pollute your mind with unnecessary negative thoughts. Spiritual discipline is mostly related to mind. In our life, 3 things are important: the body, the mind, and soul. The soul is ever pure, immortal, and perfect. Soul is the spark of the divine. Soul is the part of God. A simple example to help understand God and the soul is like the forest and the trees. The forest is the sum total of the trees. Each individual tree is the soul. God is the forest and the soul is the tree. However, the body is just the opposite. The body is mortal and prone to many modifications. In between the body and soul is the mind. Since the body is gross and will eventually die, neither realization nor perfection has anything to do with the body. It is perishable. However, the body should be kept healthy as it is a regular companion. Given that the soul is ever pure and perfect, only the mind is to be trained and tuned. When one transcends the mind, realization can take place. Therefore, every spiritual seeker should take extreme, strict care of their mind. So this is the first step, control over the mind. You cannot force your mind, and you should not, because mind will revolt. So with understanding, you have to pacify the mind. This is the right way. This is what you are supposed to do. If you put too much force to mind, it will not cooperate. It will run away. It will revolt. So with understanding, with knowledge, you have to pacify it. This is what is shama. Let's come to the next quality, which is called dhamma. So one is related to our mind, shama. The next one is dhamma. So Adi Shankar is explaining now the second quality, dhamah kaha. The answer is chakshuradi bahya indriya nigraha. Dhamah kaha. What is dhamma? In other words, it is also known as dhamana. What is dhamma? Chakshuhu adi. When it is said adi, etc. means eyes, chakshu means eyes, etc. So it includes all the sense organs. So eyes, etc. control or mastery over the external sense organs. Other meaning is to suppress or to oppress. Indriya nigraha, to suppress, to control, or to oppress the external sense organs. The first quality we discussed is the shama. Shama is related to mind. So mind is inner instrument. But here the indriyas or the sense organs, they are external instrument. So damah kaha chakshu adi bahya indriya nigraha. Control or mastery over the external senses. Which are the external senses? Eyes, etc. Eyes, etc. So how many sense organs do we have? We have 5 sense organs of action, 5 sense organs of perception. So if you see here, there are 5 gross elements. So each element has a relation with the sense organs. Space element, because when the creation came into existence, the first gross element was space. So space is related to sound aspect, and it has connection with sense organs of perception as ears. The deity of ears is dik or space. And what is the facility? Hearing. Ears are useful for hearing function. And what is the sense organ of action related to space element? Is tongue. And tongue, the deity of tongue is Agni or fire god. And what is the ability of tongue? Speech. Similarly, air element, it has relation to touch aspect. and sense organ of perception is skin, and deity is Vayu or air, and facility is feeling. Because of the air, we can feel. In between two hands, there is air, and because of that, we can feel. The sense organ of action related to air element is hands, and the deity or presiding deity is Indra, ruler in heaven. The ability it gives us grasping the objects. When we talk about the fire element, it has relation to form, sight. The organ of perception is eye, and deity is Surya or sun god. It helps to see. The sense organ of action related to fire element is feet, and the presiding deity is Lord Vishnu, and the ability is locomotion or movement. Water element has taste aspect, and it is related to sense organ of perception is as tongue. The presiding deity is water is Varuna, and it helps the facilities tasting. Anything we taste, it is because of the tongue, water element. And the organ of action is genitals. The presiding deity of genitals is Prajapati, the creator, and the function is procreation. The grossest element, earth, has smell aspect, and sense organ of perception is nose, which helps in smelling. The presiding deity of nose is celestial physicians. We call them Ashwini Kumaras. The sense organ of action related to earth element is anus. The presiding deity is Lord of Death, Yama. It helps in eliminating wastes. So these are the 5 sense organs of action, 5 sense organs of perception. So total sense organs are 10. These 10 sense organs we have to regulate, we have to control. So what is Dama or Damana? Mastery over the external sense organs. For example, one may get angry, but refrain from using harsh words. You may feel anger in the mind, but you have controlled your tongue. So even if you are angry, you are not using your tongue to speak some harsh words. So because you may not be able to practice Shama, the mind is not peaceful, angry. But you are practicing Dhamma. So at least one value you are practicing. Although they go hand in hand, means together. So Dhamma or Dhamana. Dhamma. Dhamana. Once I asked what is Dhamana, because both are used interchangeably. So Daman, I said, Daman is a union territory in west coast of India, near Gujarat state. Although here Daman is different. So we discussed that there are 10 external instruments positioned on the outside of the body. 5 organs of action, 5 organs of perception. The 5 organs of perception are eyes to see, ears to hear, a nose to smell, a tongue to taste, and skin to touch. Through these 5 organs of perceptions, we perceive the external world. For instance, external objects such as another person or a flower are seen through the eyes. External sound like talking, traffic noise, chirping of birds, or noise from an air conditioner are heard through the ears. The sense organs help us to perceive the external world in the form of sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. And the 5 organs of action, we call them Pancha Karmendriya. They include a mouth to speak, hands to give and take, feet for locomotion or to move, genitals for procreation and pleasure, and an anus for excretion. The eyes speak a lot. It is said that The face is the index of a person and the eyes are the windows of the soul. The eyes are powerful because they project and receive many things. Dhamma means keeping the body and the senses under control. This can be achieved only by sadhana or spiritual practice, not by any other means. One has to avoid spending precious time in useless pursuits. One has to be ever vigilant. One has to engage the senses of perception and action and the body in congenial but noble tasks which would keep them busy. There should be no chance for tamas or sloth to creep in. And every act must also promote the good of others. That's why there is a concept of seva, selfless service. While confining oneself to activities which reflect one's natural duties, it is possible to sublime them into sadhana for the body and the senses. Dhamma means controlling the external sense organs, which are 10. In Kathopanishad mantra, it is in the first canto, third chapter and fourth mantra. Indriyani hayana ayuhu विषयांस तेषु गोचरान आत्म इंद्रिय मनोयुक्तम भोक्ता इत्याहुः मनीषिणः. The senses, they say. Who says? The intelligent people or wise people, they say. The senses are the horses. So 10 sense organs are like 10 horses. The objects which they perceive are the way, the path. So these sense organs are horses which are moving on the path, and this path are the objects which they perceive. The Atman or the soul, the senses and the mind combined. 3 things combined: Atma, Indriya, Mana. So the soul, sense organs and the mind combined, they call the enjoyer. So who is enjoying? All these sense objects in this world are enjoyed, but who is enjoying? So these 3 combined, they enjoy. The mind enjoys, the senses they also enjoy, and the soul as a witness enjoys. So this is what intelligent people say in this Kathopanishad mantra. When on account of tendencies of the past lives, desires arise in the mind, these sense organs will set out to fulfill them. Remember, desires, they arise in the mind for what? Because of the past impressions of many lifetimes. And as soon as there is desire in the mind, the thought in the mind, these external sense organs activate. They become activated and they set out to fulfill these desires. Even though the mind encourages the person to perform a wicked act, there is a technique that can be employed to overcome the temptation. The mind is always trying to distract, but there is a technique which can be employed to overcome the temptation of mind, and this is called Dhamma. Means you cut off the connection. The mind tells go there, see it. But if your eyes, you reflect or you just turn your face, you don't look at. Means you direct your intellect that not to look. You are cutting off the connection between the object and the senses. Even the mind wants, but you can regulate your eyes or control. This is called Dhamma. So this is called Dhamma, control over the senses, and it comes from the wisdom received from studying the scriptures. Even here, one has to utilize the mental power to achieve the goal. It is interesting to note that the external sense organs are easier to control than the mind, because you have better control over the external organs than the mind, because mind is more subtle. If Dhamma is practiced properly, the willpower will also increase, and therefore Shama can be achieved with relative ease. So if you practice Dhamma, it will be easy for you to practice Shama. Means if you regulate the sense organs, you can easily control the mind. Very often you might have seen that sometimes people, they say, okay, we will observe fast. Observing fast means refraining from taking food, controlling the sense organ of our tongue. That day we keep our mind more peaceful. It may be your common experience that, for example, yesterday 11th moon Ekadashi, so we fast. When we observe fast, mind is more pacified, more less restless, and you can meditate better. So regulating the sense organ, you can also regulate the mind, which becomes much easier. On the other hand, if one tries to practice it ostentatiously, it will do more harm. Means if you are trying to project something which you are not, it will do more harm, because the desires which are dormant in the mind will flare up and will completely spoil whatever Shama one has achieved, and at the same time will destroy Dhamma too. Therefore, it is important to practice Dhamma honestly. Means when you practice honestly, not that closing the eyes and mind is still thinking of something to enjoy. If there is no Dhamma, just like we discussed mana and opposite is nama, if you reverse. Similar, this word Dhamma means sense control. If you reverse it, it becomes mada. Mada means arrogance. So if we do not control the senses, there will be arrogance. This word Dhamma you can find in Bhagavad Gita. There are two places or two verses where Lord Krishna is talking about Dhamma. One is in the 10th chapter, verse number 38. Dando damayatam asmi nitirasmi jigishatam. I am just punishment amongst means of preventing lawlessness and proper conduct among those who seek victory. So, Dhamma. In the same Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, verse number 42, when Lord is explaining about the duties of Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and so on. So, what are the duties of or qualities of a Brahmin or priest class people? So, this verse says, Shamo damastapah shaucham kshantirarjavameva cha jnanam vijnanamastikyam brahma karma swabhavajam. Shamaha, Damaha. Remember, these two we are talking about. Shamaha, Damaha, Tapaha, Shaucham. Kshantihi, Arjavam, Evacha, Jnanam, Vijnanam, Astikyam, Brahma Karma Subhavajam. The translation is Shama means tranquility, control over the mind. Dhamma means restraint over the or control over the senses. Tapaha, austerity. Shaucham, purity. Shanti, patience. Integrity. Arjavam, simplicity. Then Jnana, Vijnana, knowledge and wisdom. and astikyam. Astikyam, it has come from word astika, means a believer in God, Vedas, and afterlife. So these are the intrinsic qualities of or work of a Brahmin. However, so Lord is speaking about these two qualities here, Shama and Dama. Control over the senses is Dama. Dama means disciplining the external 10 sense organs which are known as Bahikaran. Shama is related to Antahkaran. Anta means inner instrument, and Dama is related to Bahikaran, external instruments. By controlling the mind, senses can easily be controlled. Even when mind is regulated, sense control is necessary because mind exists. Again, I'll refer to another verse from Bhagavad Gita. In the second chapter, verse number 60, Lord Krishna is talking about this controlling the senses. Yatato yapi kaunteya purushasya vipaschitaha indriyani pramathini haranti prasabham manaha. This is very important verse. Here Lord Krishna is telling, O son of Kunti, means Arjuna, even for true seekers of liberation, the sense organs and the work organs, means organs of action and perceptions, are so turbulent and powerful that they forcibly try to take over and control the mind, intellect, and ego. Because of your habit, you are so much engrossed in enjoying sense objects that it overpowers the mind. Suppose you like some sweet. So you have created that habit, constantly eating same thing again and again, that whenever you see something, your eyes see that sweet, the mouth becomes watered, and mind immediately goes and you take it. So if we do not have control over the senses, then mind can also be taken away out of our control easily. So we have to control the senses simultaneously. As it is said by Lord, that senses are very powerful and they forcibly try to take over the control over the mind. There is a story, Guruji has told it sometimes, the power of senses. Sage Vyasa, who wrote the Bhagavad Gita, he had a chief disciple whose name was Jaimini. One day, while Jaimini was taking dictation and Sage Vyasa was narrating some Sanskrit verses, Sage Vyasa remarked that the senses and mind are so strong and turbulent that sometimes even the wise people commit mistakes. In Sanskrit it is said, Panditan apakarshanti. Panditan means wise people, many in plural. Apakarshanti. Jaimini thought, if one is wise, how can one commit a mistake? Perhaps my master didn't state it correctly. So Jaimini changed the verse. He wrote, Pandita na apakarshanti. He separated one letter, na. Now it has become a different meaning. And meaning becomes that in spite of the senses being so strong, wise people do not commit mistakes. So it's completely opposite. It happens. The Guru says something and disciple is thinking something else, thinking that I am smarter. Maybe Guruji didn't tell right thing. I remember one incident. It was before I joined the ashram. Guruji did one Kriya program in Nagpur. It is in the western part of India. It was January 2001. So Guruji came for a Kriya program and he gave public talk. And I had heard Guruji before, 1 year before, speaking in English or Odia. So I thought he won't be speaking Hindi. So I gave a nice introduction to Guruji on the dais, preparing in English, thinking that he would talk in English. But when Guruji came to dais and he spoke beautiful Hindi. Now I was listening, sitting in the audience, and at one place I thought that Guruji used one word in Hindi, alochana. I thought that he didn't use this word in right context. You see, arrogance in the disciple. I was not in ashram, but still, my arrogance, after the talk in the evening, I said, Baba, that word alochana is not right at that in that context. Alochana means this. He looked at me, smiled, and he said, go and see the dictionary. And what happened? I really checked with dictionary and I was ashamed because he is correct. I am a Hindi speaking person by birth. It is my mother tongue, but I didn't know that word correctly, but he knew. So this is what happens. The disciples has many, follies, but master is so compassionate. So here what happened? Sage Vyasa is the guru. So he said, he dictated Panditan Apakarshanti, and disciple Jaimini is thinking master didn't tell it correctly. How can one commit a mistake? So he changed it. Pandita na apakarshanti. Wise people cannot commit mistake. Now, Sage Vyasa, noticing his disciples' correction, made no comment. However, he decided to teach his disciple the validity of his statement. A short time later, he told Jaimini that he would be away from the hermitage for 3 days and asked him to take care of the sacrificial fire until he came back. Then Sage Vyas walked out of the door. When his daily chores were finished, Jaimini locked the door of the hermitage and sat down to meditate. Soon, there was a knock on the door. Jaimini asked, who is there? Then he heard the sweet voice of a young lady asking for shelter. It was a stormy night, and she told him that she would not be able to make it home in the dark. First, Jaimini thought, how can I give shelter to a young lady? There is only one room in this house. Finally, he decided he would let her stay inside and he would spend the night outside. So he let her in and asked her to watch the fire for him. Then he threw a few more pieces of firewood on it. In the firelight, he could now see that she was a very beautiful and charming young lady. He gave her some blankets and then he reluctantly walked out the door to spend the night outside. The brisk night air penetrated right through his clothes. While sitting there shivering, he thought, she is really a beautiful girl. It is foolish to sit out here when it is so cold. What can possibly be wrong with just going inside and to talk to her? So he knocked on the door, but the young woman refused to open it because she did not think it was proper for them to spend the night in the same room. Now the desire was growing even stronger in Jaimini's mind. He began thrusting his body against the door until it opened. Once he was back in the house, they began to talk. But he could not stop himself from thinking of her in a very lustful way. Overcome with passion and losing all sense of reason, he slowly began advancing towards her. But to his great shock, the young lady suddenly changed into his guru Sage Vyasa. The smiling sage successfully proved his point by coming in the guise of that young lady. So, what is the message from this incident? No matter how advanced one is on the path, the power of the senses can never be underestimated. We all have one objective, but on the way, we get distracted. We stop to look at everything. We get attached, and then we forget the real journey in life. Therefore, our restless mind forgets the goal, and when we think of the goal again, we begin to run for a while, and then we get preoccupied and forget again. Forgetfulness is what happens when the mind and senses are not kept under control. We will always forget. Controlling the senses, Dhamma, means to control our vision, hearing, speech, and food habits, and to do everything in moderation, in conjunction with discipline and a proper attitude. So, controlling the senses helps to control the mind, and we have to practice them together. We'll stop here. So, we discussed so far Shama, control over the mind, Dhamma, control over the external sense organs. In the next class, we'll discuss the third treasure or quality of seeker, Uparati or Uparamaha. So, let's take time to meditate. Please sit straight. Close the eyes. This is the practice of Dhamma, controlling the sense organs. Fix your attention in between the eyebrows. Just feel completely relaxed. Try to observe each inhalation and exhalation. Every breath is a new life. Feeling little more calmness. Let us try to regulate the breath in a very specific way. Let us practice long, slow and deep breathing from bottom of the spine to top of the head. In each inhalation, let us feel peace within When we exhale, let us feel we are emanating love. Please inhale peace, exhale love, inhale peace, exhale love, inhale peace, exhale love, inhale love, exhale peace, inhale love, exhale peace, inhale love, exhale peace, inhale peace, exhale love, inhale peace, exhale love, inhale peace, exhale love. Normal conscious breath. The body becomes very steady, breath is more feeble and very slow. Mind is tranquil. Concentrating in between the eyebrows, just feel inner peace and slowly remaining inside the cranium, merge into inner space. In this silence, meditate. extreme calmness, experiencing peace and bliss. Bring your attention back to the third eye in between the eyebrows. Let us be thankful to God and Masters, all the teachers. Let us be thankful to everyone in this creation, living or non living. Let us be thankful to God for every breath. I am praying to God and the Masters. ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः. May all become happy and healthy, loving, noble and generous. Let there be no sorrow or suffering. Let there be more peace, prosperity, and harmony among us and in this entire creation. May the blessings of God and the Masters be upon us all and everywhere. Om. Amen. Open the eyes. Once again, happy Thanksgiving Day. Thank you all for participating in this class. Our third lecture will be on the next Thursday. Till then, meditate nicely, remain thankful in every breath to God and the entire creation. Thank you all. Jai Guru.